remember the Alamo,
the battle cry of San Jacinto.
It's a phrase deep in the heart of all Texans.
Because when Texans face insurmountable odds, we fight until we win.
It's the most iconic symbol of our history, I believe. That, to me, is the birth of Texas history. There's just a pride that if you grew up here that you just can't deny.
I think it symbolizes everything about what the Texas spirit and really the American spirit is. Being a Texan means everything to me. It means independence and freedom. Texans are a little scrappy and we're very proud and we're very over the top, but we're very friendly and we're very welcoming. More than anything, Texas is home.
You know, I've been a lot of places. I've traveled because of football and stuff like that, but there is no place like Texas. Basically, like, you don't want anybody to take anything from you, especially what's yours.
I went to the Alamo in like 8th grade. I think they were underdogs. I was an underdog. We were all underdogs at the Alamo Bowl.
I think it just represents everything that TCU is about. I feel like anybody that's recruited to TCU, they need to go watch that game.
I know nobody thought that, that was achievable. But, that's what sports is about, man, achieving the unachievable.
You're going to want to remember this.
What's that? Yeah, hey, look, see, it's a couple things that I could guarantee. I'ma keep it trill and stack this money till I leave. Couple 100,000, I'm rich off NFTs. I might liquidate these holdings just to hold a couple G's. Huh? Please, you ain't did it like me. Got this ice all on my tea, but I ain't sipping iced tea. Ain't no Nestle, white hoe look like Coco. Got my mojo like I'm JoJo. I might pose up for the photo, but ain't posing, that's a no-no. I'm a real one from the south, diamonds in my mouth. Dropping gems when I pop my gotta hit me out. Crypto crooks making money coming out the drought. You been popping all that, ain't doing nothing, what's that about?
I'm on early, my teeth pearly. I ain't worried, I ain't scurried. I got that my best while it's working. I just slide on a beat and I'm murky, yeah.
Texas can be a difficult place. We have hard summers that are very long, and we have difficult winters, and we have droughts and hailstorms and tornadoes. We have every ecosystem that you can imagine. It's huge, it's vast. It takes almost a day to drive from one side to the other. It was not an easy place to settle whenever Texas was settled by Anglo settlers. Texas was very much still the very Wild West.
American pioneers were moving west, and even though we had not coined the term manifest destiny yet, there was certainly that idea. And as Mexico was encouraging trade and encouraging immigration, and a lot of that immigration came from U.S. citizens, all of a sudden they look up in the 1830s and there's 10 gringos to every Latino that was there, right?
It was appealing to people because they could get land at a very inexpensive price, and they had a lot of freedom to settle it.
There was an overwhelming number of American pioneers, and they were bringing slaves.
Mexico declared that slavery was going to be illegal. And while ethically and morally I agree with that decision, the settlers at the time did not like it.
So slavery was obviously a problem. But for the most part, the Mexican government ignored it. The real problem started after a few coups in Mexico City. When Antonio Lopez de Santa Anna claimed the presidency for the first of 11 non-consecutive terms, he replaced Mexico's Federalist Constitution with his 7 laws, dramatically reducing Texians' autonomy and freedom. When Santa Anna murdered civilians to put down a Federalist revolt in Zacatecas, a national divorce seemed imminent.
So context is we have a lot of pioneers who were there and are not wanting any more association with Mexico didn't appreciate the fact that Santa Anna was grasping the power of basically a dictator as president. Most of the immigrants had no allegiance to Mexico whatsoever, so there was this idea that Texas should be its independent republic.
A growing separatist movement in Texas was something Santa Anna could not abide. 500 troops were sent to Texas to maintain order. The first target of this pacification force was the small village of Gonzales and its even smaller defense cannon.
And so in order to kind of like one-up the Mexican troops that were starting to show up, they put a flag that said, come and take it. Like, hey, come get our cannon, you know, let's see if you're really gonna fight us. And the come and take it flag to this day stands for defiance towards, you know, the government in some senses and government control, but also as a challenge to be, I want my freedom.
Crowd milling around, taking their seats just before the kickoff.
Much like Texas itself, TCU football was born from a similar crucible of beating the odds and never backing down from a fight. The small co-ed Christian school was forced to leave Waco, Texas when its campus burned to the ground, a situation a certain other Waco school almost certainly had nothing to do with. After relocating to Fort Worth, TCU football began asserting its dominance in the 1930s under legendary head coach Dutch Meyer, the pioneer of the forward pass.
TCU football has a pretty proud history. You're talking national championships, you're talking Sammy Baugh, you're talking Davey O'Brien, you've got national awards named for guys who played at TCU. This is a powerhouse, you know, back in the 30s and 40s.
But really from the 40s up until GP, there's a whole lot of nothing.
TCU hasn't always been the TCU that you and I or anyone have known. I mean, there was a long period of time where, you know, the 1984 bowl team was about the only bright spot in about 40 years.
Oh, I try not to think about that. When I came to school, we referred to it as the dark years. We won 4 games while I was at TCU, so it was dismal at best. There were tumbleweeds in the stands.
My freshman year, we go to a bowl. My senior year, we're 1-10, and that one win is against SMU, and students stormed the field afterward and get pepper sprayed. Fast forward the next year, and TCU hires Dennis Franchione. You know, Franchione was a guy who had a reputation as being the type of coach that could turn a program around. And I remember the season's over, and I'm talking to TCU, then KTCU sports director Richard Durrett, and he says, hey, I'm hearing some whispers, we might get a bowl invite. Slow your roll, Richard. I mean, we're not going to a bowl game. And they don't just go bowling. One of the biggest upsets in bowl history when they stomp USC in the Sun Bowl. And it wasn't just the fact that they dominated USC offensively on the ground. It was the fact that they held USC to negative 28 yards rushing in that game.
I mean, it starts with Dennis Franchione. It really starts with those guys that were part of that 98 Sun Bowl team. I mean, you just had a bunch of guys that were unranked, 2-star, 3-star kids that were just, they got max potential.
So you had an offense that was fun and dynamic to watch, but you had a defense that could throttle people. And that defensive coordinator was Gary Patterson.
Gary Patterson.
We're just a Texas team that plays with Texas players. Speed, baby.
I think what people don't understand, when they say it takes a village, it really takes a village. But you know, from my perspective, I looked at Coach Snyder at Kansas State. He had to be different. Nobody had ever won at Kansas State. His method was, you know, he scheduled people so he could win because he believed winning would breed success, and that's what I felt like we do. When we were in the other conferences, we had to play somebody big, so it was a stretch game, and then you had a 50-50 game, and then one you should win. But for me, you know, we couldn't really get kids to come to TCU, and so you had to go find things. We had to think outside the box. We had to evaluate. Give a great example, in 2005, I think of our 11 defensive linemen, I think 8 of them were tailbacks in high school.
I was a 2-star athlete. I wasn't a 5-star. Like these guys just keep going to SEC schools or being the top recruits at whatever program, right? He found a lot of guys that just wanted to play football and were tough and physical, but that wanted to win. And the majority of the guys that made up the rosters in the previous 20 years before I even got there had that same mentality.
I didn't have too many choices coming out of high school as far as football. TCU, I feel like it just has like that underdog mentality, you know what I mean? I feel like our team was made up of just a whole bunch of like blue collar workers that's just gonna grind every single day, a whole bunch of grit, a whole bunch of toughness.
TCU's changed my life. You know, TCU gave me a chance. I didn't start in high school
in kicking. Coach Patterson took a chance on a second-string kicker out of a 5A high school. So I did really good at their camp. They have a kicking camp every year. And I think the day after they called me and Coach P offered me, and he goes, hey, come up to the school, whatever, and talk. I mean, the campus is beautiful. It feels like Narnia, you know, the first time you're there, you're like, man, this is wonderful. The bricks all the same, and there's not a blade of grass that's out of place. Man, the thing that got me, he's like, hey, I just want to let you know, it's 70-30. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, what's 70-30? He's like, hey, TCU, it's 70% girls, 30% guys. And I was like, okay, I'm a high school kid. I'm just turned 17. I was like, okay, like that's it. I'm in, bro. Say no more.
Taking undeveloped talent or like just lower level recruits and making top 3, top 5 defenses and, you know, playing for all of these big games that truthfully we probably shouldn't be in. Found a lot of diamond in the roughs. I think he brought like a level of discipline and a level of detail that is required to be elite for a long time and to be consistent.
For us, it was about driving kids to become something that maybe even back home, you know, they were told, no, you won't get your degree, you won't graduate, you won't be a good college player, and be able to prove everybody like that wrong. That was where all the chip on the shoulder really came from, of how we played and how we did things. Sometimes we had to take guys that had, lack of a better way of saying it, baggage. And so what personality did I have to have and everybody else had? I kind of had to be the bad cop.
How would you describe Coach P as a coach?
Oh, man. Intense.
A detail freak.
Extremely fiery. He's a yelling coach.
He's 100% a defensive genius. He lives and breathes and eats football.
We would do like an end-of-year training camp or in the training camp talent show, and Coach P's coming in there with his iPad so he can watch film in between the talents. And I'm like, man, this dude's all ball 24/7. Coach P put everything he had into it.
Making sure that you're lined up exactly where you need to be on this play, because if you're the 6 inches to the left, you're gonna miss it. You know, like that level of detail.
There's a Coach P and then there's a Gary. Gary's more enjoyable. Coach P will, you know, make sure you're doing everything right.
One of my favorite things that he ever said, he's like, I don't care if all of you hate me as long as all of you are doing it together.
I wasn't that overly happy sometimes with them either. Because, you know, nobody wants to be a bad guy. Nobody wants to be the bad cop. Kind of like my own sons, you know, there was one question I never wanted them to ever come back and say to me, or ask, he said, why didn't you tell me about this? We were going to tell them how the world was, you know, how hard it was to keep a job, how hard it was to pay your rent, how hard it was to do all this kind of stuff. And then put a plan in action that we could make them special. What I've found is that doesn't always happen if you just let them do it on their own pace.
I think Coach P, as a father figure, more than a coach, is how some people see him.
He is intense, but he just wants the best out of you.
Nick Saban says, you know, people that have high aspirations don't get along with ones that don't.
To personify the relentless attitude of the TCU Horned Frogs, Gary Patterson would resurrect an old Dutch Meyer saying, "Fight 'em till hell freezes over, then fight 'em on the ice."
When I first got here, I didn't understand what that meant, but it really stuck to me after we went through a couple battles on the field.
Go all out, and then once you know you've reached your limit, dig down deep and give that last little drop that you got.
And that's just kind of like that mentality you have to have as a man in this world, you know? Just gotta go make it happen, it don't matter.
It's bled over into our personal lives now. You know, I think that there's guys that have weathered the storm on some pretty incredible things. You know, Coach Patterson, back in the day, he put that in you, and like we have a standard to set, and there's no quit. You don't stop fighting until it's over.
The hardest part of my life is TCU football. It's always gonna be some adversity, but you gotta keep on going past it, keep pushing past it.
Wherever we gotta stand our ground to defend what we have to defend, then we have to do that.
Armed with this fighting spirit and Patterson's innovative and aggressive 4-2-5 defense, the Frogs were nearly unstoppable, earning double-digit wins in 9 of Patterson's first 12 seasons. These included conference titles in the WAC, Conference USA, and 4 in the Mountain West. It all culminated in a magical 13-0 Rose Bowl championship season that helped earn the Frogs an invitation to the Big 12, where they would finally rejoin many of their former Southwest Conference foes who had once left them for dead when that conference failed in 1995. Leading them into this new era was an athletic quarterback.
Trevon Boykin, the FBS leader in total offense.
Trevon Boykin throwing balls that usually most quarterbacks won't throw.
Touchdown! Trevon Boykin, sweet feet.
I came to a camp here, a Gary Patterson camp. Went back to West Mesquite, right, I think I was in class, and my coach was like, my coach kind of talked funny. He was like, "Can I get Boykin?" So he pulled me out of class and was like, "Hey, TCU here." And so I threw for him or whatever. Literally like the next week he called, gave me the offer. I only had 2 offers at the time. TCU didn't play with me through the process. We worked out, I threw for him, they offered me. I was like, "Hey, like, I'm coming." TCU was the place that for me felt like home. We didn't really have a lot of people who came from like California or this, but we was all down south kids.
When you look at a guy like Boykin, he was basically an all-world quarterback at West Mesquite. The kid could do anything he wanted to, had a tremendous arm, had tremendous speed.
Despite Boykin's skill set, TCU's transition to the Big 12 was not a smooth one. An unprepared Boykin was thrust into the starting role midway through the 2012 season, just 2 days before TCU's game against Iowa State, after spending the week practicing at running back. Then in 2013, an anemic offense held back a dominant defense as the Frogs struggled to a 4-8 season. One thing was clear: to survive in this new environment, these Frogs would need to adapt.
Yeah. But in 13, I think we lost 5 games by a total of, 11, 12, 13, 14 points, not very many points. And all those guys were coming back. We didn't feel like that we could push the Oklahomas and the Texans around being a play-action run team. We needed to be able to control the box, bring in 2 guys that had the same kind of ideas of how to run that offense, but they could recruit. Well, yeah, it was Coach Meacham and Coach Cumbie.
Doug Meacham and Sonny Cumbie have completely transformed this TCU program with this air raid offense.
They totally changed their offensive philosophy.
Trevon Boykin and that potent TCU offense.
My name is Doug Meacham. 2014-15, I was the offensive coordinator at TCU. I called the plays, the ones that worked. It's a funny story. Like Gary had made contact, and at first I thought it was a prank. I thought somebody, I was like, "Come on, who is this?" type conversation, because I couldn't believe it. I was at Houston. I think Gary saw the direction of offenses in the Big 12 at that point. He was interested in doing the same thing because he saw how problematic it was for him defensively, and it was a great tool for him to practice against what we do every day, improve and catch up in terms of their defensive style. It was a great marriage because we had good players going in, and we had some skilled players that I was shocked that we had, and then Gary just put a great plan together. I met Sonny through Dana Holgerson and seen him on the road a lot. Loved his how he was as a person, how hard he worked. We made him a co-coordinator quarterbacks guy because that's traditionally what he coached, and he wanted to have his own room. And we were good together at that time because he's more of a dot his I's, cross his T's guy. I'm a little bit more an idea guy.
He's one of those guys that doesn't seem like anything is ever wrong. Every guy that's been around him says he's a free spirit type coach. He could probably write a whole playbook on a napkin and tell you this is how we're going to beat so-and-so. Sonny Cumbie is another guy that players just love to be around. Christian wants the best out of all of his players. You look at Doug Meacham. He wanted to go vertical. He's going to get those guys that have speed to burn, and Sonny Cumbie's going to identify a quarterback that can run his system.
When Cumbie first made it to Fort Worth, he asked me. We went to Payway over there in downtown Fort Worth. And I think Johnny had just came off his Heisman year. I see the same. He literally sit me down and was like, "Bro, there's nothing that you can't do that I didn't see in him." Like, I went back and watched all your throws. He was like, "Is this what you want to do as quarterback, what you want to do?" And I told him, yeah. And from that day forward, he told me it's crazy that we had the conversation before it started popping off. He was like, "Hey, this is gonna start happening, that's gonna start happening, awards and y'all in the accolades, I just need you to stay the course." And I was like, "All right, bet." And boom, lo and behold, I'll be damned.
We felt like we were always talented and had that, but just having the offense and be able to put up points, especially in the Big 12, Coach B's always gonna have a good defense, but the end of the day, you got to score points in the Big 12.
I think it was just really getting everybody bought in. I think when they came in and introduced the offense to us and we started spring ball and we saw the success that programs had before TCU with the offense that they had, it was pretty tough not to be bought into that system.
We was brothers, like we was actually like doing it because we actually cared about something. At first we was just doing it just to do it. And when they came in, the whole swagger just changed.
I always say that team was the best team that I've ever been a part of, just because for one, the talent was out of this world. Out of this world. The culture that we had, like, we was a true family, brotherhood. Those years right there were like very, very sweet in TCU football because of just the relationship we had with each other. You know, we was extremely tight. And I think we struggled a lot with each other.
That off season between 13 and 14, that spring of 2014 was, I'm not kidding you, it was hard, horrible, hard. Like, I think Coach Summers, the strength coach, he actually apologized for a workout one day.
I watched greatness at practice. You know, you had Josh Jackson making incredible plays in the corner of the end zones, guys making crazy runs.
We go through two-a-days in camp, and we can feel this building.
Them coming in the spring, the mentality that they like tried to instill in us was like, we don't care who we play against. We don't give a damn about the name on the helmet, the who, the what, the when, the where, the how. It's just like, that was what Meats kind of like instilled in me, and I took it all the way into Seattle. I swear to God, it was just like, bro, I don't care who out here.
They brought in a transfer from Texas A&M that everyone was already identifying as the next big thing. And all Trevon Boykin did was go out and beat him in the next 2 years of history.
It's a couple things that I could guarantee. I'ma keep it trill and stack this money till I leave. Couple 100,000, I'm rich off NFTs. I might liquidate these holdings.
Young guys nowadays, they talk about aura. I feel like we had that special aura.
That 2014 team was such a culmination of offensive firepower. They could score from anywhere on the field, and I mean anywhere. And a swarming defense that had Gary Patterson's fingerprints all over it.
You have Boykin, you have Josh Doxson, you have Aaron Green, you have Colby Listenby. Guys that can make that offense move. You have a massive offensive line that could just bulldoze anyone. When they were playing teams, it was a matter of how many points are they going to score? Are they going to score 40 points? Are they going to score 50 points? And it's one of the funniest things when you look back at that 2014 season. Their only loss, they scored 58 points.
Boykin took his game to a whole nother level. He was one of the best players in the country and took that massive leap forward because of that offense we just talked about and the explosive weapons they had. We'd never seen that in purple before. We'd never seen that kind of speed. That 2014 team was the best team I've probably ever seen wear purple. So fast, so big, so strong, so explosive.
Please, why you texting me if you ain't got...
Just one of those moments where it just was easy, man. It just felt like things were a little slow motion to me. Yeah, it just worked in college, you know. It was one of those things that me and Trey would put the ball exactly where it needed to be at the highest point. And, you know, if you're able to do that, you know, the receiver, I mean, it's just jumping at that point. It was a beautiful thing to, like, give to TCU, man. Like, it was like almost a genie in the bottle when you needed something, and we just dialed it up, man. It was almost, felt like most games, he walked in there and I was wearing the left shoe, he was wearing the right, man. We walked like that, man. I ran the spread offense in high school. The recipe I already had in me, you know what I'm saying? So after that, I think what put me over the top was the athletic ability.
I think we got lucky. It was lightning in a bottle because we had the quarterback. We had Josh Doxson. We had a great O-line. There was guys in place there, and I think we got lucky with the personnel. And what we were doing maybe fit some of those guys maybe a little bit better. I mean, the defense was phenomenal. Like, we could go out and kind of run whatever we wanted to because we're going to get the ball back in 3 plays. You know, it almost is like you're playing with house money. You know, you're in a casino and you're up $2,000. Well, you just kind of just let it rip. That was kind of our attitude at that point.
We had an older defense who were a bunch of leadership, you know, and also more NFL guys between, you know, DK, Paul Dawson. Paul Dawson was a stud. And then a great D-line, to be honest with you, older guys between, you know, Chuck Hunter, DP, all those guys.
You got like a lot of guys on defense like that. Sam Carter, safety, smart, getting guys lined up. You got great cornerbacks. I mean, there was just weapons, but they were all guys that they had all peaked at the right time. We had a lot of like juniors and seniors.
Everybody just made plays, man. Everybody was a playmaker. Like, it was crazy.
That 2014 team was like special. Coach P has a tradition of like great defenses, and they were a great defense, and you know, we just put it together as a team.
Well, they're very explosive on offense, and we had a toughness to us because what we went through in 13 and 12.
Despite a 55-3 win against Iowa State to close out the season, TCU dropped from 3 to 6 in the inaugural college football playoff rankings, all thanks to a 3-point loss on the road against rival Baylor. Yes, I'm still mad.
But then TCU goes down to the Peach Bowl and just completely annihilates an Ole Miss team 42-3. And that's an Ole Miss team that beat Alabama that year. So it was kind of gratifying to see TCU go out and finish their season that way.
National champs. In my mind, that'll never change my mind that was going to be the national championship team. They would have won it all that year if it weren't for the committee robbing them.
I still this day have a hard time struggling with, you know, how do you go from third and you beat somebody by 52 and drop to sixth, and then get the draw playing an SEC team in their backyard. You know, that was a hard pill to take. So what'd we do? We fought them on ice till hell freezed over.
If that 2014 team gets put in the playoff, y'all win the national championship?
Come on, man.
You don't even have to finish the sentence. Absolutely, they would have won the national championship. They were playing at such a high level. That Baylor game woke them up.
You give Coach Patterson that much time to prepare for someone, and with that team, like, no doubt, man.
Well, I don't know. There was a lot of good teams in that league. I mean, in the playoffs. But I do believe that of the ones that are playing, there was ones that did not want to play us.
I'll die on the hill. We would have won the national championship, for sure. I have a buddy that played for Ohio State that year. I'm not going to say his name, so you know. But he said whoever got in that 4 spot between us and Ohio State was going to roll Bama, and then obviously you had Oregon, Florida State, and all that.
It's not like it is today. Like, the portal is hard for them to like go to a school, actually be told, hey, you're not good enough, get in the weight room, get faster, get bigger, get stronger, and then it's about junior year rolling around, you might be the man. You feel me? The guys that were on that 14 team were some of the guys that I had came in with, that were juniors or seniors at the time. At that time, we were at the point to where it was time for us to start being good.
14 and 15 were both so special because of the tight-knit relationships that we had in that locker room. You would be hard-pressed today to go out and do interviews and talk to people and find a team that's as closely knit as we are now. We love each other.
Following the Texian victory at Gonzales, Santa Ana decided he would deal with this rebellion personally.
One of the things that's important to remember is that a lot of people had fled because Santa Ana had declared that they were up against revolutionaries who were not fighting under a flag, and therefore they would be treated as pirates, which means they were going to be executed.
General Santa Ana was very ruthless, and when the Texicans became Texians and decided that they were going to declare their independence, he came down on them very hard. A lot of people sought shelter in some of the old Spanish missions. We think of the Alamo as more of a fort because it's what it became, but the Alamo was a Spanish mission. So people were looking for a place to hide. It was a very eclectic group of people that ends up at the Alamo.
As the Mexican army, with more than 1,500, are approaching what is now called San Antonio, we not only had Texas residents, but we're beginning to see volunteers flood in. People like Jim Bowie and Travis and Davy Crockett are coming in to help fortify that, but there were only 100 people there, right? But it was a valiant stand by people who wanted an independent republic, and it was doomed to failure, at least there at the Alamo.
Every year we would do, Coach P would come up with some saying that we would have, and the 2014 year our saying was, prove them wrong. I feel like we did that.
My, oh my, is TCU just smoking them.
So then, flip side of that coin, 2015, everyone knew we were going to be good, and our saying was, prove them right. You're not the underdog anymore. You're not catching anyone by surprise. And I mean, I think we opened the season number 2 in the country. I feel like Coach P knew that, so he wanted to humble us a little bit. And we got after it that offseason. I mean, we got after that offseason training camp. I remember that one probably being one of my toughest training camps. I feel like just the amount of 2 days, and back when you could still have 2 days.
I mean, they had virtually everyone coming back. They had a great offensive line coming back. They had Boykin coming back. Josh was coming back. Key components of that defense were coming back. And they had a top 5 preseason ranking, which was merited. They were a very good team.
Run it back. Make the playoff this time. Prove the doubters wrong. Leave no doubt. Those are a couple of the pyramid signs in Gary Patterson's office too. But go in there and just kind of repeat that same success and just build off of it and grow and prove that you're worthy of that ranking.
I had high hopes that, you know what, maybe we're going to do what we did in 2009 and 2010, follow up a great season with an even better one. So I felt like this was going to be the year. You see Trevon Boykin landing on the cover of Sports Illustrated. This was going to be TCU's year to finally take home a national championship.
What's that? Yeah, hey, look, see, it's a couple things that I could guarantee.
I don't know, bro, I was just kicking it with people on the team, so I didn't look at myself being no better than whoever else was on the team. So I think just us just being grounded, staying together, the accolades, the pictures, all that always gonna come with it, you feel me? But it can go away just as quick as it came too. If y'all don't get out here and play and perform, it'll be like, oh.
It was different, we're just being around the program, being the number 2 team in the nation. There's a spotlight on you, but it was good for us.
It was an extremely fun time to be, in Fort Worth, be a part of the program. Like I said, we knew we had something special, and I mean, we just came off an amazing season, Peach Bowl win, Big 12 champion, and our mindset was just, let's go do it again. Then let's go to the playoffs. We had lost a lot of guys on defense, so we knew we were going to look different, but our core on offense was still together.
That was the biggest thing in everybody's mind, was we got one more year to do this thing. And we were going to do it. We were going to do it, plain and simple. Everybody was so locked in. It was almost a blur of focus.
You can't just say that you have a player ownership team. They have to be able to work hard enough, mature much, that they become that, and it's important to them. And to be honest with you, that's really how the 15 team was.
We went up to Minnesota that first game, and it was the craziest environment I've ever experienced in my life.
Jerry Kill had a hell of a team. Luckily, it was early in the season. It wasn't too cold. We were able to get out of there with a W.
Couple things that I could guarantee. I'ma keep it trill and stack this money.
We dealt with a lot of injuries early, which kind of how I made my transition to linebacker. I came that Sunday practice, Coach Patterson came up to me, told me I was going to be a linebacker, so I was in the linebacker room for the rest of that year. That was really difficult. I'm not going to lie, I didn't really know what I was doing at linebacker.
We weren't losing. We started right where we left off.
That's a no-no, I'm a real one from the South. Diamonds in my mouth, dropping gems when I pop my gotta hit me out. Crypto crooks making money coming out the drought. You been popping all that ain't doing nothing. What's that about?
I'm up early, my teeth pearly. I ain't worried, I ain't scurried. I got that, my fast was working. I just slide on a beat that I'm murky.
I work hard for this.
There's just like a lot of magic happening.
Coming from Midland, everyone goes to Tech. Yeah, man, Texas Tech, that was great.
It's crazy that you bring up Tech game, bro.
That game was wild. I mean, obviously, a shootout that's Big 12 football.
That was a hostile environment, Immediately you got the fans throwing tortillas on the field. Coach Patterson actually had me doing a lot that game. I was playing safety on some downs. I was playing linebacker some downs. So and guarding guys like Jakeem Grant. Then you got Patrick Mahomes over there.
Bro, I ain't gonna lie, bro. One thing about Pat, bro, tough. From the start to finish, he did the whole game limping. I was like, damn, y'all can't get him out the game, fam. Knock him out the game. Y'all tripping.
Josh, he was going crazy. I think he had 18 catches for 275. And I was like, it was like, damn, it was crazy.
It was a career game. you experience a lot of things that go your way on a career game, and the ending to it was unreal. I'm not gonna lie.
I mean, we can't lose to these dudes. Like we're not finna lose. I don't know how. I don't know what's getting ready to happen.
Here it is, 4th down, and we had ran the play early in the game. I snapped the ball, and the only reason I look left, I don't see AG. I'm only looking left to try to get this safety to move. I knew I was going to J-Dot the whole time.
They showed man straight across the board. So Trayvon should have been on the running back from the jump. He just kind of panicked and just was, I'm going to throw it to Dawson no matter what.
J-Dot kind of cut his route in front of him. He'd normally be behind. And so when I released it, it just came out kind of high. And luckily he tipped, because if he wouldn't have tipped it, it went right out the back of the end zone.
I've said countless of times that team was built on a culture on offense to always chase the ball. You know, just good things happen. You never know when a ball's gonna get popped out or whatever. You know, chase the ball, hustle. Trey threw it a little too high, ball ricocheted, I was following the ball and I caught it. Just made a play.
Oh, it was called on the back end! Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? He hauled it in! Dotson tipped it in the air! Aaron Green hauled it in!
You know, the play went just how we drew it up. We're gonna tip it off J-Doc and AG's gonna catch it in the back. And what's crazy, I can remember blocking and like seeing the ball go and just being like, oh, like I knew he caught it. They reviewed the play, but there was no doubt. I knew AG caught it.
Yeah, it was it was intense to say the least. The best way I could describe it is being a child in the backyard, you know, playing basketball, and you make that count, you know, 3, 2, 1, and you shoot it, and you know, you make the buzzer beater, and you know, run in the house screaming like you've, you know, just made a walk-off, you know. That was the feeling, for sure. That was the feeling.
I think I got hit in the head with batteries, a water bottle, the batteries hurt, and then the tortillas, and I folded one up, put it in my back pocket, and I still have it somewhere.
Texas Tech's press box, the way it's set up, you have fans coming through there, drunken fans, by the way. You have coaches that go to the same elevators as everyone else. And I remember seeing Sonny Cumbie. Sonny Cumbie played at Tech. He's the quarterback that scored 70 points against that Gary Patterson defense. But he gave me the biggest high five. I think my hand stung all the way from Lubbock back to Fort Worth the next day.
You know, anytime from TCU people, they were always excited about the Texas win.
Texas, you know, regardless what their record is, they're always going to be pre-ranked top 25. Honestly, it annoyed me every single year. My dad's side of fans from Austin, so and they're all Texas fans, you know, and I just hated Texas. DK had a hit. Hey, I felt sorry for the dude, man, because, like, he just knocked his block off. I ain't gonna lie.
Devontae Turpin against University of Texas, kind of his coming out party. Turpin was somebody that kind of hadn't been introduced at that moment. He was new to the team, and getting to see him torch Texas was pretty special.
I know when we played them, like, we got them off their game pretty easily. They got frustrated.
Crypto crooks making money coming out the drought. You been popping all that, ain't doing nothing. What's that about?
Oh. I mean, we're doing our job, you know what I mean?
Blowing them out at home. We felt like we were catching our stride. The K-State game was a crazy game too. Being down 18, I think, at halftime, and to come back from that was also foreshadowing.
That was a very hard place to win.
The beginning of that game, Aaron broke a long run, and it got so quiet. I've never seen a packed crowd get quiet.
I don't think a lot of people know what it feels like to score on the opening play of the game, because you don't, half the time you don't even feel all the way warm. You know, a lot of times it takes being hit to kind of wake up and warm up as a running back. And so, you know, when you pop it open like that on the inside zone, go 86, you know, it's pretty intense.
Experiencing that running down the field, it was like a blizzard outside when you go outside and it's snowing, and you know it's just really quiet and you don't hear anything. And it was amazing to me. It was like everything froze. And I knew that game was gonna be special from there on.
You know, we were just never rattled. You know, it's just like we've been here before.
And Trayvon just kind of took over at the end and just won the game. He made a check at the very end, ran one in, then we hit Doc on a little play based on the coverage.
Touchdown, TCU, 55 yards.
I think in that moment, I wasn't looking for anything, right? It was just like, hey, here's this little girl, she's sitting here at the end. And the conversation was very brief. It wasn't literally more than that, like, hey, what's your name? She told me her name was Abby. And I told her I hope she enjoys the game. And that was literally about it. And it created a relationship that we still literally talk today. That was just a blessing that she was able to be able to get everything that she deserved in that light, that moment. I was more happy for her than I was for like myself or anything. Abby, you know what's crazy about that, bro? Abby's grown now. I mean, we're getting old.
West Virginia, that was my first start.
Hey, look, see, it's a couple things that I could guarantee.
Some of the plays that I was making and some of the things I was doing, like sometimes I go back and watch myself on film, like after the game or whatever, when it was just like, bro, like, I don't know how I did what I did. It just happens. Some of this stuff just happens naturally.
She ain't did it like me. Got this ice all on my tea, but I ain't sipping iced tea. Ain't no Nestle. White hoe look like Coco. Got my mojo like I'm.
Like the play had happened and we're literally sitting there just looking eye to eye, and I was like, what's up, bro? Like
dropping gems when I pop my. Gotta hit me.
And it happened so naturally. I don't even really think he meant to stick his hand out. It just was like, boom, and it happened and I left. I mean, we still joke about that today. Like, I've ran into him a few times, and he said, like, when he went back up to the West Virginia, like, they gave him for it. Like, they gave him for it. I was like, bro. I really wanted to ask him, like, what made you shake my hand, bro? Like,
I'm a money magician. It's like I'm waving a wand. I turn dollars into commas. In the bosses.
So we get to Stillwater. What goes wrong?
Everything.
One thing about playing in Stillwater, bro, I hate it, bro. I ain't gonna cap, bro. I hate Stillwater. And I probably would love it if I was over there. I'm hating it because I'm on the other side, but we never play good for some reason in Stillwater.
We just couldn't catch a break.
Oklahoma State was a devastating. We also got some people hurt in that game.
I could take you through that play, man. I think it was a glance route, which is just a 7-step in route. And I came in and caught the ball and was, get a few extra yards, and seeing I was in heavy traffic, and you get down, and I did something I never do, and it was I just had my hand out like a kickstand when I was declaring down on the ground, and somebody, of course, was coming in from a different direction, I believe, and with a forearm or something, and just kind of came into my wrist that was just kickstand out on the ground. For me, that was my first injury, and that was what I was dealing with right there. It was like the air coming out the balloon. It's hard to kind of wrap my head around not being able to finish, with your brothers and the season and the player I was for TCU.
Yeah, it was one of those. It was a bad day. Even our plane went off the runway and got stuck in the mud, and we had to go. We played 11 o'clock game, but we didn't get home till like 1 o'clock in the morning because we had to bus to Tulsa and get on a different plane. And I mean, it was just one of those days that it was not the day for the Horned Frogs.
Despite a victory against Kansas, injuries continued to pile up, with Joey Hunt and Trayvon Boykin added to the walking wounded. Redshirt freshman Foster Sawyer was thrust into the starting quarterback role, a job he would maintain as the Frogs headed up to Norman for a matchup with number 7 Oklahoma and a conference title still on the line.
I didn't agree with the decision. I just played pretty well against Kansas, threw 1 interception, got benched. And we went into, on Sunday, I was told that the decision was made that following Saturday, Foster was going to start. I was pissed off the entire week. I remember going, I think it was 13 for 13 and 7 on 7 with completions and like 5 for 5 in team. I had totally earned the starting spot going into Oklahoma, but at that point they had already made the decision.
Joey kind of tweaked his knee in practice that week. Thought he was going to be able to go. I'm like thinking he's playing up until like we have our pads on. We're like, he's playing. He's got his pads on. We go out there and like the first rep of warm-ups, he's like, I can't do it. I'm like, oh, here we go. Oklahoma, they've got some dudes on the D-line, big guys. And yeah, it's just kind of a thing where you have to like rely on your training and you just got to go play football. It's still football. And yeah, we almost came back and won that one too.
It was just always next man up mentality. Obviously, you're not going to be the same team without Boykin. He was arguably the best player in college football. And then Josh was getting ready to win the Biletnikoff. You know, but we were stacked those years, man. We were really stacked, and we knew how to win, and we knew how to play to our strengths.
This is when we saw the emergence of Bram.
We were 17-point underdogs. I went in being down 17 points. And really, it was kind of like a attitude where it's like, screw these guys. I can't believe they didn't start me. But now we're in this hole, 17 points. Let's go let it loose and have fun.
He showed me what he could do that game against Oklahoma.
There were plays where Emmanuel Porter, we'd have a play going, I'd just look at him coming off the sidelines and be like, hey, be ready for this ball. I wouldn't go through any reads, just throw him the ball, let him make a play.
The end zone, it is caught. Touchdown TCU, Emmanuel Porter. Now do they go for 2 and try to win it in regulation or play for overtime?
That was a game where you saw the heart of this team. And you saw, again, as we've seen so many times as Frog fans, the kind of grit that has earned that Horned Frog mascot name. I mean, that's a reason that TCU is named after these scrappy little lizards that run around the Texas Plains.
If not for a 2-point conversion that got batted down, TCU wins that game. Now everyone will still go back and look at that game and say Gary should have kicked the extra point, but Gary will always tell you, when you're on the road, you got to take games, and he would tell you that to this day. So that Oklahoma game started to show some resilience to me.
Yeah, I think that was the biggest thing, is seeing how our team fought back against a team on the road. Probably, even though that was a loss, that was a cool setting for us.
I was really excited and happy that I was able to put the team in a position to win. We fell short, but it was a good team. I mean, there's so many of that Oklahoma team still playing on Sundays.
The 2015 Baylor game was right up there with all the games that I've ever covered to being one of my favorites. It was rainy, it was cold. You had the return of Boykin.
In 2015, you've got a season that was not quite what fans hoped it might be, but you always want to beat Baylor. You always got to beat Baylor, and especially on the heels of 61-58.
That came up a lot, the 2014 loss. I think they came up here and spray painted our campus, like wrote right outside this door. They spray painted was 61, 58, whatever it was. And then just leading up to that week, Coach P, I learned this later that Baylor, he hated Baylor, which is fine.
Because the way 14 did, our kids they were really excited about the opportunity.
People forget, Baylor came in and I think they were ranked in the top 10, trying to go to the playoff with a win against us. We slogged it out there. I mean, it was like 33 degrees and raining. Been raining all day, windy. I mean, horrible conditions.
And tsunami on the field. For me, it was just trying to finish it out at the Carter, though, I think.
And people ask me one of the coldest games I've ever played in. That's one of the first games I think of. I played a bunch of snow games, single digit, sun's out, that whole deal. And it's those are cold, but when you're soaking wet and it's windy and it's a wind chill 20-something, but it's not freezing, it's not snowing, it's just a terrible combination. And just, I feel like we're on defense the whole game.
Man, when I think of that game, the first thing come to mind is me looking down. I'm getting in my stand, I'm standing in a big puddle of water. Art Browse and Coach Patterson had their little beef going, so it was a big game leading up to it, and then playing it and winning, and the way we won it, it was great.
It would take 2 overtimes to determine a winner in Fort Worth that night. It all came down to one play, 4th and 1 at the 16-yard line.
It was always going to be a fight against Baylor just because of the rivalry.
We had practiced short yardage plays, and I would try to line up in a certain spot where I figured it was going to go, and Coach said, no, if this guy is lined up in this position, they're going to run it in that gap, and I think it was the B gap or something. He's like, they're running there every time. I just got chills thinking about it.
We had a corner blitz called, but we had it called from the other side. But I didn't know, like, there was nothing for me to do on that side. So I just looked at him, I was like, what do you want me to do? He said, just go.
When they lined up in that formation, I knew, I was like, oh, this is the play. They're running it in this B gap right here. So I intentionally stacked my nose so that they're not thinking they're going to be able to block me. And so in the moment the ball stepped, I just slanted into the gap and shot it, and there it was. It was just there.
He's going to hand it off to Chafin. He's taken down for a loss. TCU wins. Baylor's hopes of a Big 12 title and a shot in the college football playoff gone.
Still to this day, I still see those guys sneaking themselves under and getting in the backfield and doing all of it.
I was right there on the line, me and Mark Cohen, TCU's media director, and when he made that play, the place went nuts. It was something that couldn't have been written any better.
Oh, that was awesome. I think I have a shoe still on the sideline, got buried into the mud there. Because I remember walking up and down the last couple minutes of the game, and I always debate between the Alamo Bowl and that game as being the two best games I've been to in person, at least as a reporter.
The excitement after that last play, everyone that was still there storming in the field, the energy, it was one of those highs that, it's really, really hard to match.
And that was a big way to win the end of that season, going into what we wanted to play, and then gave you an opportunity to play a really good Oregon team, which, it's, you talk to people, people still say the Rose Bowl and they talk about the Peach Bowl, but they probably talk about the Alamo Bowl just because of the comeback.
On February 23rd, 1836, the siege of the Alamo began. Approximately 200 Texians stared down the barrel of 2,000 Mexican soldiers. With Jim Bowie having fallen deathly ill, William Travis assumed full command of the garrison and sent out a desperate call for aid. He signed this famous letter, "Victory or Death." No help came.
Crockett they sent out as a scout, and he was like, oh boy, we're in trouble. More troops. Santa Ana kept getting more troops, and our troops weren't coming. So they were left there to duke it out by themselves.
Those who stayed put up resistance for a few days, but there was no way they were going to stand up to all the cannons and all of the soldiers that the Mexican army had.
Legend holds that on the eve of the assault, Travis drew a line in the sand, asking those willing to fight and die for Texas to cross. All but one did.
There's no primary document to suggest that really happened, but you tell a story often enough and it becomes history, right? But whether it happened or not, it certainly happened symbolically by the people who decided to stay. They made that decision, and that's what's important about that story.
At 5:30 in the morning on March 6th, the assault began. Travis roused the sleeping defenders with shouts to give 'em hell. Within an hour, the fort had fallen. Travis died on the walls fighting off many soldiers. Bowie was bayoneted in his hospital cot. Crockett, having to resort to using his rifle as a club, either died as one of the last 11 standing in the chapel or executed in the aftermath as a prisoner. Only Susanna Dickinson, her daughter, and Bowie's slave Joe were left alive, sent to tell any remaining revolutionaries Santa Ana was coming, and they would not be spared.
At that time, it wasn't a 12-team play, so it was just like once you felt like you lost that one game, it was a wrap as far as like trying to win a national championship. So like I felt like the team kind of checked out. We knew we still had games left. Obviously, like we all gonna go out there and compete, but as rough as it was and as good as it started to kind of have this bitter ending from injuries, and when I had finally like looked around and seen like who I had left for like the bowl game, it was like nothing but young guys. Me and Aaron Green was literally the only ones on offense that year towards the end that were still like part of the older group.
It was like, wow, there's 4 freshmen playing right now at receiver. You're not supposed to win like that in college football, not at this level.
You're worried a little bit of a letdown, playing against an Oregon team where you'd hoped you'd be in the playoff. So anything short of the playoff was not what you were hoping for. But hey, it's Oregon. It's a marquee matchup. You're going to have eyeballs.
The journalists across the nation, when they were looking at bowl games, they had the Alamo Bowl as one of the premier matchups for bowl season. So I felt like that was a great opportunity for fans to get down to, and they did, man. I mean, TCU filled that place to the brim. Oregon traveled well. It was a great bowl game to be a part of.
It was kind of funny to me because when I was in school, the two teams that were always ranked the worst and second worst in the country were Oregon and TCU. We were kind of flip-flopping the Ducks and the Frogs.
When we were invited to the Alamo Bowl, we were excited to be going to a bowl, but it wasn't the bowl that we wanted.
Can I tell you a story?
Breaking news from overnight, TCU's quarterback was arrested in San Antonio.
TCU quarterback Trevon Boykin.
Trevon Boykin.
Just two days before his final collegiate game in that Alamo Bowl.
And he ended up inadvertently hitting a bicycle cop.
I had never been in that kind of trouble as far as like dealing with police officers, and like, you're never gonna get that type of phone call from me. So like, we were responsible enough to know like what we were doing. It's not our first time. Like, we were of age, we could be out drinking, so we knew what was going on, and it's not like we were doing anything irregular from what we had doing during the week as far as like if we were on campus or if we were not on campus.
I texted my cousin. He went to UIW, University Incarnate Word in San Antonio, and I texted him. I was like, hey, where do you guys go to have a little fun, after hours? And he's like, we go to Pat O's, but you probably shouldn't go there. You know what I mean? It gets kind of wild.
So we're with Trey that night, and we're there at the bar, and Trayvon, is obviously, it's about to be curfew, and we're walking across the street, and Trey is texting us and calling us, myself, Charlie Reed, and Bram, and all of us, and he's like, hey, after bed check, I'm gonna go back out. And we're like, yeah, man, that's a horrible idea. You shouldn't do it. And, we're 22 at that point, 23. Like, he's a grown man. He's going to do what he wants to do. And, a good friend of mine, really good dude, Preston Miller. Preston Miller hadn't been out all day, but he was like, I can't let Trey go by himself. And so he went to watch our Heisman candidate quarterback's back.
Me and Preston, we go across the street to Pat O'Brien's, and I'm like, I don't even think we even had another drink. I think we sitting there just like kicking it with some friends. I look at the time, I'm like, hey, Preston, we done already pressed it, you feel me? Like, we got back at 12, here it is finna be 2. I literally walked to the restroom, bro, and it's this bouncer literally sitting there like this, and I'm like, I'm trying to get past him, I'm down there about to juke him, you feel me? And he like, nah, you can't use the restroom at this time and yada yada this. But as he's telling me this, like, he letting people like walk by him, you feel me? So I'm like, bro, it's 1:45, bro. Like, everybody's about to start coming to piss around this time because they finna put the lights on and so on and so forth. And so as I'm having this conversation with him, literally mid-conversation, his homeboy, whoever he is, literally comes grab me by the neck, like full Nelson, you feel me? Like full Nelson, and is dragging me. So I'm like, damn. I'm like, all this because I got a piss, and he literally dragging me. And so like, I'm like, bro, when you let me go, I'm gonna knock your ass out, because I don't even know who this is at this point, you feel me? And then like somebody else came out the blue and just felt like they could just like, so it was a bunch of randoms. I'm like, who all these people, you feel me? So the bouncer literally, he's like at the steps or whatever, and literally like I told him like, bro, we can fight, I ain't tripping, but the cop didn't even announce it. These bike police or whatever, you feel me? So he never like announced himself, never tried to like de-escalate the situation, never was like, hey, take your ass on, it's over with or whatever. I'ma spray if y'all don't move. It was none of that. So when me and the bouncer was about to get into it, he seen me approaching the bouncer, and the cop literally like snuck around and kind of sucker punched me before I could even hit the bouncer. It was crazy. So I didn't know who he was. I'm thinking this could have been the same people that was choking me inside the club. And so when I looked, I just reacted. So I smacked his ass back. And this when they got to talking about police and all this and that. So at that point, it was too late.
So I was actually up at the time. I have a friend, his dad works for the San Antonio police. So my friend calls me at like 2-something. He goes, "Hey, my dad just said they arrested Trayvon." I was like, "No, he's not. No, his room's right across the hall from mine." "No, he's not." And he goes, "Yeah, they said they arrested him." So I'm like, "Oh man, this is bad."
I was in the hotel room when I got a text that Trayvon's got arrested. But my reaction was just call the coaches, see if we can. The place was 2 blocks away. See if we could get him out of it. And he wasn't getting out of it.
It was about 4 in the morning, and I got a phone call. It'd been a hard night, and then I knew I was going to have to get up early to go speak at an FCA breakfast.
Charlie Reed is my bowl game roommate, and we're laying in the room, and it's like probably 3:30 in the morning, and I hear a knock at the door. So I get up and I grab a pair of shorts. They're Charlie's. And I look out the peephole, and there's a police officer, Coach Patterson, Chris Del Conte, Victor Bashini, and Sonny Cumby standing outside my door, knocking on our door. And I turn around and I'm like, "Charlie," I tell him who all's out there. He's like, "No, they're not." I'm like, "Dude, get up." "Yes, they are." And Coach Patterson's like, "I can hear you in there." And I opened the door, and at that point I had a beard and long hair, and I looked like I just, got thrown out of a window or something, and Coach P and them all walk in our room, flip the light on and walk in our room at 3:30 in the morning. At this point, we don't know why they're there. Like, we have no idea. And they're like, "Where is he?" And we're like, "Who?" And they're like, "Trayvon." And we're like, "We don't know." And we told them, though, we were like, he said he was going to go back out, and they all, like, their faces went white, and they just all turn around and leave.
And so, I just said, it's one of those situations. We just, we need to, got Trey on a bus and got him home. You couldn't do that, and I had to tell the team that Bram was going to be the starter.
So I'm driving to work that morning. It's in Los Angeles. It's like 6 in the morning, just woken up, and I had gone on the radio. A buddy of mine, Lance Zerline, a sports radio guy out of Houston, had me on to talk about the bowl game. And he hits me with the Trayvon Boykin news. And I thought he was kidding.
I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. And immediately I went to not blaming Trey, but just blaming the whole situation. How did he get out past curfew? Who was not watching him? And how bad is TCU going to lose this game? Because I fully trusted Bram, but you're losing one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the nation, and you're playing against a defense that was pretty good in Oregon.
Game's over,
I've known Trey since he was 14 years old. You're talking to the guy that has followed high school recruiting. I met Trey, and Trey and I still talk to this day. And just seeing the clips the next day of him getting out of jail, it was disheartening, man. He's always been, to me and to people that know Trey outside the program, he was a model player. Look at Iowa State. Look at the story that broke there.
Come back to the hotel that morning. I go to my room. Cumby comes in there, meets him, comes in there. He told me that they were gonna send me home. But Bram's my roommate. Like, Bram was, not saying he was just along for the ride, but Bram was kind of, at that point, before that had happened, he was just along for the ride. It's crazy, kind of like I had no expectation of playing when Casey got arrested. He had no expectation of playing.
My first reaction was to text our graduate assistant and tell him I need a play sheet. I lost it, didn't have it, didn't know what plays we were running that week. I needed one of those.
So I'm in there teaching Bram the plays. I was like, "Hey, bro, I'm gonna walk you through this one time, and I hope you get it, you feel me? Because they finna send me to the crib."
No, I was not confident at all.
Did you have any confidence in Bram?
No offense to Bram, but No, why would you is a not nice way of saying it, but he's not Trevon. He's not Boykin. He's not the reason this team was built off. He also wasn't the 5-star quarterback that had offers from Alabama like Foster Sawyer was.
I knew Bram from high school. Knew he was a pretty good high school quarterback. I think he went to Houston first. Great kid. I mean, everyone around the program talked about how good a kid he was. And like I said earlier, he was really good against Oklahoma. I felt like he provided a great spark to that offense. He was kind of a gunslinger, making plays kind of like Uncle Rico, just throwing wild passes, and they were getting caught and they were getting completed, and it was just fun to watch backyard football.
Like, don't count us out, and don't count old Brammer out either.
Gosh, he's a great friend. He's a great person, someone that is always going to be there for you, someone that's always the life of the party. He worked really hard. I believe he was a walk-on quarterback, which is not an easy job.
The freshmen that were playing with me, they really showed up and played well, but I think they believed in me. They did, because they saw what I could do at practice. So I'm honestly glad that the freshmen were on the field at that point.
Kind of just like practice, which makes it even better. I'd say it's like it was more comfortable for me playing with him than Trevon, just because I hadn't played with him as much.
There was a riverboat pep rally, and I was on the boat with a lot of the freshmen, and they were all saying, you got this, we're gonna ball out. So I felt encouraged by all of them. They were great.
It was just always that internal feeling that we're gonna get it done somehow. For me, I just wanted to kind of go out with a bang and win my hometown.
It was kind of like the excitement of just coming to the homecoming. So it was a pretty cool first bowl game to be able to play in.
Bram was, he was a little more quiet than usual, but it was, hey man, okay, I did this against OU, and I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna get it done.
Well, tell me about the first half.
Terrible.
Taking a shot down the field, touchdown. Freeman, that cut and the power, touchdown. Royce Freeman, touchdown. And there's no defense for the Ducks right now.
Oh man. Woo! First half, man. They jumped out on us quick.
The entire first half was a blur. Like they were moving so fast.
Their offense was clicking, man. We struggled with mobile athletic quarterbacks. They made plays, especially on third down.
And another deep throw. This one is caught again.
It's hard to remember a first half that was as lopsided as that first half was. Even when TCU had seasons that were kind of middling, they never got punched in the mouth that way repeatedly over and over and over again. It really didn't happen very much.
It was rough. We had a lot of penalties. We had a lot of third and longs. We weren't protecting great. And then you get down and then you just have to, you're stuck in that world of like a 2-minute drill for the 3 quarters basically.
We would move the ball like 30 yards. And then next thing you know, we got to back it up 15. Everything's going right for them.
I mean, for crying out loud, they get a block punt. Oregon picks up the block punt and runs 15 yards for a first down. That's how that first half was going.
Now that is truly when everything's going against you. Garrett Kaufman got the punt block, and it turns into a first down.
They got a first down, and I was like, what? Oh, what?
I can remember being there, hopping around on one leg. Like, God, dog, man. I can't believe I came down to San Antonio for this.
And everybody's getting really disgruntled. Some fans start to leave. My husband and I even having a discussion that turns into an argument over whether or not we're gonna stay. And I've gutted out a million terrible losses, so I'm like, we're here, it's a bowl game, we're staying, we're not deserting the Frogs.
Alamo Bowl has one of the greatest press boxes to watch a game. You're halfway up the stands, you're basically right on the 50, and the glass doesn't go all the way up to the ceiling. It has a space of about 2 feet where you can get all the noise from the stadium coming in. The bad thing about that night, Oregon's on that side. Every time a touchdown was made, whether it was a kid or a grown adult, they would always turn around to the press box and start doing the O signal.
So right in front of the press box was 3 or 4 guys with just duck calls the entire first half of the game. Just kind of razzing us a little bit.
There was a guy there, if you've ever watched the show Hot Tub Time Machine, Lou in that movie, I swear, had a dead ringer that was sitting about 2 feet in front of me. And he was looked just like him, acted just like him, and it was miserable to watch a football game with that guy when Oregon's rolling out to a 31-point first half lead.
It was honestly going so fast, I didn't even know that the quarterback got hurt.
Keeps it. And we'll hope that Vernon Adams is okay. I don't think he is.
Hashtag Brightside, yep, obviously. So the Brightside, hashtag Brightside started trending on Twitter, but basically was talking about how, kind of things could be worse, right? Kind of saying, hey, at least this isn't happening. At least, like, Brightside, we're not Texas A&M, stuff like that.
If you watch the Alamo Bowl, don't ever watch the first half. It's about as bad a football game in the first half I can ever remember, ever.
I just remember saying to myself, like, damn, that was fast. And I just remember just being silent on the bench, just kind of looking around like, wow, this is actually happening right now. And, they were scoring so fast and so fluid, we weren't doing much on offense. So I just remember saying, like, damn, this got ugly fast. This got ugly fast. And I just remember just, like, this is not the way that this can end,
You want to be able to show off your kids. Because of the way the first half went, we didn't do that. And I didn't want it to be about just one person, Trey. And so, we wouldn't be sitting here doing this video if it was a scholarship quarterback, had to be a walk-on quarterback. And I think that's what makes it the coolest story maybe of all of them.
With the Battle of the Alamo, Santa Anna sent a resounding message to any Texians that dared stand against the might of Mexico. There would be no mercy.
They were ruthless, and they burned the town of Washington, they burned Harrisburg, and so word starts to get out, you better get out while you can because he's coming for our land, and he's going to kill your family, which created something in Texas history that we call the runaway scrape. So the government that was forming was forced to pull back and go towards Galveston Island for safety, and then all of the settlers with their cattle and their kids in covered wagons were moving kind of northeastward, scraping across what we now know as the state of Texas to escape from Santa Anna's army.
General Sam Houston had no choice but to keep what was left of the small Texian army just out of reach of Santa Anna's much larger force, waiting for the right opportunity to strike.
So at San Jacinto, we got a stroke of luck.
We've got a lot of people that are thinking this is over, so as Santa Anna is going down to confront Houston's part of the army, he set up camp in a place that was not very defendable, right? There were trees and marsh and lake and so forth around there. And after a while, it looks like we're not going to have a battle that day, and so basically it's siesta time.
Santa Anna really got pretty proud, which he was known for doing. He was a pretty haughty guy. They took a siesta in the middle of the afternoon. There is a legend that there was a woman who is referred to as the Yellow Rose of Texas who was entertaining Santa Anna during his siesta as a Texian spy to keep him preoccupied. But basically Sam Houston said, hey, let's sneak up on them while they're napping. And they did.
As the vengeful Texans charged toward their unsuspecting foes, they woke them up with 3 words: remember the Alamo. The battle was over in 18 minutes. Santa Anna was found a couple days later, disguised as a Mexican soldier, and was then forced to sign the Treaty of Velasco.
And that, in effect, ended the revolution, and Texas became its own independent country.
I remember I was sitting outside the locker room and with Ethan Perry, our punter, and I was just sitting there eating a peanut butter jelly sandwich, one of those, I think it's called Uncrustables. And I'm just sitting there eating it. I'm like, man, hopefully I get like one more kick in the second half. Man, I was completely checked out, to be honest with you. Like completely, like not nervous, not eager to go back out. I was just enjoying the mess out of that peanut butter and jelly sandwich. So.
I remember us in the bathroom at halftime, more or less maybe hiding. I'm numb, like, holy crap, like this is really bad. And you start thinking about, the fans and all the things and how much pressure is on Bram and some of the guys because it wasn't going well.
A former player, Jason Phillips, man. One of my linebacker coaches, he came in, he lost his mind.
What I do remember is Jason Phillips breaking a chair in the locker room, just going crazy. So I think J. Phil might have sparked the comeback.
He was getting after him. So I went in and it was just, I think the calming effect of just, hey, look, one thing has gone right in this ball game. I don't know if we can come back and win it, but you know, we need to show people what TCU's all about.
2 quarters is a lot of football. And we pretty much seen it as, okay, if they put up this amount of points in one half, well, we can put up this amount of points in the second half.
I think I was playing really tight in the first half. The second half, I was just kind of like, I'm never going to play football again. So why don't you just let it loose and have fun?
And the thing that's funny, the only adjustment we made is just take the plays you thought would work and call them.
We went through every drive on the offensive side. It's a good drive, good drive. Why'd you throw that ball? The whole mood of the locker room was like, can we figure out how to stop them?
I guess it's whenever Coach P changed his shirt. I'm telling you, I mean, I really don't know.
Because I sweat so much, I do anyway, but you know, coaches are the worst at rituals and all the different things of, you know, or ticks, which are, you know, tying my shoe or pulling my pants, you know, whatever it was that you did. And so at the time, it was one of those things where, you know, we're not playing very good in this, so this can't hurt me.
As we're coming out of the locker room, it's in the Alamo Bowl, it's like your locker room goes into a breezeway, and then the other team's locker room is literally right across the hall. And it's myself, Big V, Austin Schlottman, I think, was there, Joey Hunt. We're all kind of standing at the front. Offensive lineman went out first, and Coach Patterson's in front of us, and we can hear across the hall. And they're like there's music and like laughing and joking audibly. And Coach Patterson, he turned around and he was like, "Do you hear that?" And like none of us said anything, and he was like, "They think you're a joke." He was like, "So what are you going to do about it?" And that's all he said, and then we went out there for the second half.
You never know what happens in the second half. Let's get back in the ball game. They were down at Oklahoma like 30-14 late and came back and tied it up. This team's not going to quit.
The first play of the third quarter was a trick play. This is the one we hit against Ole Miss, the second play of the game the year before. It's the same play. And Colby Listenby was a high school quarterback. Now Colby was hurt, but he was still kind of playing some, you know. So I tell Colby, I said, "Look, we're going to run the double pass. Go over there and throw at the quarterbacks and get your arms loose." And he goes, "Okay." So we went over there.
I had a broken pelvis, double sports hernia, and then found out 4 years later I had a torn labrum too as well. I was getting my shots like I usually was getting the whole season because of the injury and stuff. And the doctor hit me in before the game just so I can play in the game as usual. And then halftime he hit me like again 5 more times. Hit my nerve and my leg went limp basically.
Well, we call the play, send him out there, and Colby's still standing next to me. I'm like, "What are you doing?" He goes, "Coach, I'm out." You didn't know that? I'm like, "Why didn't you tell me that?"
That's whenever Tony James was playing. He's my backup. He actually went to my high school too as well. Tony being like 5'8", looking over the defense.
So we ran a double pass with a kid that had never practiced the play and never threw a pass ever. And it worked, and we kind of got started from there.
I'm glad he completed the pass because I'd have got some shit for him from the locker room. So.
I had thought to myself, man, if we could just get a field goal, I think we're going to be okay.
I was like, okay, this might be my last field goal, you know? It made it 31-3. I just remember kind of walking on the sideline, you know, after I hit it, grabbing my kickoff tee, like, okay, at least I made one more field goal.
I remember that Lou from Oregon just in the stands cackling, "Oh, TCU got a field goal, great job." You started to see that spark that we saw in the second half from Bram. Things that weren't happening, all of a sudden those lucky breaks were happening for TCU. If you give a team like this momentum, it's hard to stop.
Football is a game of not only of emotions, but it's a game of momentum. You know, it's just a feeling. You know, when you keep playing hard and you give yourself a chance for the unthinkable to happen.
So you know what? If Coach Patterson's going to change his shirt, maybe anything can happen.
I had no idea.
You didn't know he did?
I had no idea he changed his shirt. But when he was signaling, we couldn't find him. So I couldn't find him, but like it makes sense now, like, or not now, it makes sense like afterwards when I found out he changed his shirt. I was like, okay, this is why I couldn't find him, because he changed his whole outfit.
He didn't tell anybody?
Didn't say anything.
Did you change outfits to change up the mojo in this game?
Yeah, black wasn't working. And we just played TCU football.
They couldn't distribute the ball. Their quarterback kept fumbling snaps. The dude had reps, you know, so and with the new center, like they just weren't on the same page. And so for us, that put them behind the sticks, which gave us a chance to get off the field.
When the quarterback was basically fielding grounders for most of the second half on those snaps, I'm like, oh, they're not going to move the ball much more.
What would you say to people who say, well, the only reason TCU won that game is because Oregon lost their quarterback and their center?
Yeah, that's pretty comical. You know what I mean? We didn't have our starters for the whole game.
I mean, we had the backups in too. We were playing with backup. I mean, I was a backup, Bram was a backup. We were playing the whole game with backups, so.
We had a lot of freshmen on the field. Like, we was dealing with injuries that whole year, so we wasn't a complete football team either, so it's football.
So my roommate actually, he popped it off with a touchdown.
I told him I was going to throw him the ball.
4th and 5 toward the end zone,
And somehow, some way, it dropped in there perfectly.
It's caught! Touchdown! Jalen Austin.
The best defender of the play was Kavonte Turpin. He was basically trying to fight him for that ball.
We always teach the slot receiver to force an outside release on that seam, and he went real wide and almost got underneath the guy that caught the football on the outside. And it looked like a Hail Mary almost, because two of our receivers right there together, and Jalen caught it, and Bram made a great throw.
Once Jalen scored and he made that play, I was like, okay, offense is making plays now. I'm on the bench, I'm standing up like, okay, we just scored, okay, you know what I mean? Like, we're still in this, we're good.
And then that fourth quarter happened, and you're thinking, what am I watching?
And that's when all the true freshmen and redshirt freshmen, well, that's when we all started balling up.
That ball popped out, but I think Oregon, let's see, are they going to rule him down?
Running on the field.
It's TCU's football.
I think what happened defensively when our offense started coming back, and we got the fumble on the kickoff, and we finally got some points on the board. I think our kids started to feel a little bit of hope. And I think because we didn't just say, you got no chance. Hey, look, let's don't try to think we got to come back and run the ball, do whatever we have to offensively, how we need to do it, and then let's see if some good things happen, and some good things happened.
Momentum is a powerful thing, and especially with young people. When it's all working, you can't stop them. When it turns, you have trouble turning it back.
The athleticism, I don't think people were kind of expecting from him.
Kohlhausen, now he will run. Kohlhausen dives. And not quite John Elway in the Super Bowl.
I don't know what the bro was thinking diving from the 6-yard line. I called him after the game like, boy, what the like, diving from the 6, bro, for real. As a fan at this point, I'm just like, man, damn, I just hope they pull through.
I just did a flip and landed on my head. I ran back in there, and we had an 8 route on the left side.
The outside receiver who was taking Kobe Listenby's place ran the wrong route. So when Bram got ready to chunk it, the receiver was blocking.
Now trying to run. Kohlhausen, touchdown.
I'm not fast. But when somebody's chasing you, you kind of got to kind of move your feet and go. And that started the trend of us becoming a comeback team.
See, it's a couple things that I could guarantee. I'ma keep it trill and stack this money till I leave. Couple 100,000, I'm rich off NFTs. I might liquidate these holdings just to hold a couple G's. Huh? Please, you ain't did it like me. Got this ice all on my tea, but I ain't sipping iced tea. Ain't no Nestle.
Each possession, it was like opening a present on Christmas Day. You didn't know what you were going to get, but you knew you were going to be excited about it because at that point, in the first half, nothing could go right for TCU. Second half, everything was going right for TCU.
All we need is stops at this point. His offense is rolling. Bram is cooking. The OC's cooking. You know, we'll give ourselves a chance. We just got to play defense. We already gave up 31. So, you know, get some stops and give ourselves a shot.
The greatest thing you can do as an O-lineman is, like, I always hear it as, like, move another man against his will from point A to point B. When that gets going, that's fun. That's a good time.
It was initially meant to go to Bram. When we called it, Green was kind of like, great, I want to score a touchdown. And Bram in the huddle said, look, we're going to shift. We're going to direct snap it to you. I'm going to give a snap count. I'm going to lead block for you. So when the play was occurring, I'm looking at it, go, what are they doing? They're lined up wrong. Bram did it on his own in the huddle and chop blocked at the end.
You know, I don't think there was a situation where I wasn't going to get in. Not on that. At least if it wasn't that one, it was going to be the next one. Just kind of pouring it all out there. You know, last go around college football. You know, just rush of emotions for sure.
And it was like, okay, yeah, great call, Meach. I was like, yeah, I had no idea, again, like what was going on with that. But like, Bram can kind of do it as he goes. Bram can adjust on the move. Well, I remember at Houston one time, I got mad at him. They were doing 7-on-7 at Houston. And Bram in 7-on-7, which is all passes, checked to an option play in 7-on-7. I'm like, what are you doing? It's a 7-on-7. But, I mean, he had that ability.
They pitch it over, and the throw, 2 points from Nixon to Jones. How about it?
How about it? We got a game with 3:32 left. You can't ever sack the bags and go home early.
Like, you can't even write it like that. Like, it's the way stuff started happening. It was just like, it was destiny.
It got to the point where it was 31-28, and I remember they got down to the 5, and I'm thinking they're going to win this game. And it's 3rd and 1, and Bram throws an incomplete pass. And at that point, I'm thinking, is Gary going to go? Is he going to go for this 4th and 1?
You know, the last couple minutes, 2-3 minutes, I'm looking at the scoreboard. I'm like, dang, man, I might have to tie this game, right? And so, you know, I go from eating a peanut butter and jelly sandwich at halftime to, you know, hour and a half later, I'm looking at the scoreboard like, okay, I got to log back in. I remember running out there and I was like, you know, this is probably going to be like the last kick of my career. And then it kind of hit me. It made me, you know, sad, and it was sentimental in a way. And I remember going out, I was like, you know what? I just want to make sure I hit it good. Like I want this to be my best hit I've had all year. And man, I hit it great. You know, I hit it down the middle, and I mean, it was a short field goal, but I had no negative thoughts, nothing like that. It was honestly, it just felt like an honor to be out there.
And they've come all the way back from 31-0 to 31-31.
The lack of nerves from the first half that kind of went away, they're back. They're in full force.
And I think we was used to it because we had a lot of close games that year. A lot of close games, a lot more than what I would want. But our back was against the wall. We used to that, just locking in and then playing good football.
So here we go. TCU gets it first in overtime.
I remember the play. It was early H quick, 92Z post. Mike leaked special. It was the mesh route with the post over top behind it.
And it's a kryptonite to me. Post route coming from the right to the left. You know, you gotta put your feet in the position to make a good throw.
Kohlhausen with time over the middle of the field. It's caught by Porter. Emmanuel Porter hauls it in for the score. And the Frogs go up 37-31.
And that was a heck of a catch.
The guy's a basketball guy. He's gonna go up for a rebound. He's gonna go up for a ball. You know, I threw it behind him, and he snagged it behind his shoulder, and I mean, the guy was so good.
It's the catch everyone had been waiting Emmanuel to make his whole career, to be honest with you. Emmanuel was a receiver that was a very highly recruited receiver, chose TCU over Texas, LSU, and man, I'll tell you what, that catch to me, I can just watch it over and over and over.
So I'm like, oh, cool. The game's over. Oregon's not going to go down and get a touchdown. Sure enough, they got their first score in like 3 hours, it felt like.
The second overtime, Oregon kicks the field goal, and TCU gets put in the same situation. It was a 46-yarder that Jaden was having to come in and make. This kick to me had me on the edge of my seat. But then I looked and I'm like, well, this is Jaden. Jaden has been in these situations before. He's been at West Virginia. He's won games for TCU.
I miss kicks. That's what everyone's like, Jaden didn't miss. I missed plenty of kicks. You just have to miss the right ones. But I remember walking out to go hit it, and the thought came in my mind, the only negative thought I've had come in my mind for any field goal, out of the 79, 80 field goals I made. And I remember going out, I'm like, man, all the work, all the field goals, all the games, all the years I've spent at TCU making field goals, this could end everything. And I remember going out, I was like, okay, 47-yarder, right hash, it's not a give me, indoors, and I'm walking out and I'm like, man, if I miss this, people are gonna hate me. And then, seriously, that was my last thought. And I lined up, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna trust my form. Like, I'll be honest with you, like, I didn't hit it good. It went down the middle, but I didn't hit it good. But man, praise God that it went in, because if it didn't, I don't know if I'd be sitting in this chair right now. I definitely wouldn't be sitting in this chair.
They get to go another overtime, and you're just like, holy cow, I'm part of history.
A Cinderella story like this can't end with us losing. This is not how it goes. You don't come all this way, you don't come back like this, have Coach P change his shirt, have the narrative of the night before and a gritty come from behind victory behind a quarterback who has played second fiddle all season long. It can't end with us losing this game.
When I got the job at TCU, all I heard for 2 months is don't run the option into the boundary, because I guess they did that prior.
Well, we called it option to the right side, short side of the field. We had an option, so I wasn't confident in the play at all. We ran it because that was called, and it looked good formation-wise. It looked like they were outnumbered on the right side, and it looked like we were gonna, at least get 5 yards on it.
That's the moment that I think every TCU fan will remember for eternity. It was so magical.
Snap comes back, option short side. Kohlhausen keeps. Kohlhausen scores!
That play was just wild. It was crazy because he was banged up, and like you don't know how he's feeling, and he just kind of just decided I'm not gonna back down today, and yeah, he was balling, man. He was just balling.
Defensive end kind of tried to play both. He tried to play me, tried to play the running back, and never done it before, but I kind of gave him a little flick of the wrist, and he went with the back. So I hit the seam and turned the corner there, and I seriously thought an inside linebacker was going to come blow me up. And that's kind of why I started stumbling. I had so much momentum going forward, embracing a hit. The middle linebacker didn't show up, so I was able to, keep trotting into the end zone.
He had his little James Harden cooking it, so I say, nah.
It used to be a Houston thing. I don't know if it's anymore, but James Harden, it was my favorite player on the Rockets, and there's a buddy of mine, James Power, texted me, when you score, what are you going to do? I said, I'm just going to give him the Harden. He's cooking.
That was awesome. That was awesome. He did that, and we were going nuts. I mean, we were going nuts.
And so when they scored that, I immediately jumped out of my seat, and I believe it was me and Billy Wessels and a couple other guys. We sprinted as fast as we could to get down to the field. We had a TV timeout. We made it. I remember feeling the chills, the electricity, and it was so loud. Can't believe how loud it was. It was probably still the loudest game I've ever been a part of.
Ooh, last 4 plays. I remember the last play. We had an incomplete pass.
Corey O'Mealy makes what is a tremendous play.
Freeman tackled short of the first down. He got close to 8 yards though.
Ty had a sack.
Low snap, it's on the turf. And Oregon's lucky they get at least one more play.
I do remember getting a sack. I can picture that. Energy was high.
Okay.
They got in a bunch set, and we talked about it out of a man-free scheme of how we needed to handle it.
Here we go.
I had one of the slots, so I probably had the number 3 receiver in coverage. And basically, I'm thinking, okay, my dude is either going to the end zone with the vertical, it may be a bend vertical, or he's doing something towards out of bounds you know, somewhere around the sticks to, you know, get a quick catch, and then, you know, they can try to score on the next play.
They ran another variation of a miss. They extended the ball down the field a little bit further. Denzel was playing his ass off that game, like, but he was where he needed to be, and he's athletic enough to make the play on the ball.
And I glance back at the quarterback. I see him scrambling, so I look back at my receiver. He breaks, and I seen that the receiver had like a little bit of separation. So basically what it was, once I seen that top hand come off the ball, I knew he was throwing it. So at that point, I was like, okay, I got to get to the ball before the receiver gets to the ball, right? It really was like a slow motion moment for me, because I mean, I looked at the receiver and the quarterback like 2 or 3 times in that time span, and obviously that probably happened in like half a second. And you know, I broke the ball, broke it up, and then everybody went crazy.
Freeman to the right of Lucky. Low snap, he picks it up. Pressured for the edge. Steps up in the pocket. Looking, sets it, fires. Swept away! The Frogs have done it in the Alamo City!
It was just one of those like surreal movie-like moments that, you know, that happened to me. Like I said, it was like once we got like 2 seconds to the play, everything started happening in slow motion.
Thank God it's finally over. It is over.
Sheer and utter pandemonium.
We really pulled this off. I was kind of laughing to myself, to be honest with you. I mean, it's like,
dang, we did it. We did it. Like, that was crazy. I know nobody thought that, you know, that was achievable, but you know, that's what sports is about, man, achieving the unachievable.
When he knocked that ball down and he started doing the high step with the no sir, I mean, I was shocked. I didn't know what was happening. I remember Sam Carter coming up to me. I think he brought me the water, and he said, well, let's go get this on Coach P. So I just figured out a way to douse it on Coach P, and then immediately I went to a equipment manager. I said, do you have your phone on you? Yeah, he's got it. I started calling my family.
I ran straight over to Joey. I'm like, that's for you.
There are moments that you experience that your brain can't really comprehend quick enough to really appreciate. And that was one of those.
My 30-some odd years of coaching, it was just one of those moments you'll never forget the rest of your life. I know Bram may have told you this, but we were going to do a chest bump, and his knee hit my knee. And I thought I blew my knee out, honest to God. I thought my ACL was blown. And I'm laying on the ground, all these people hovering around. I think they thought I was having a heart attack. And what it actually was is Bram's knee hit my knee, and I thought honestly, it was like a burning. I thought I blew my knee out. One of the crown jewels for me was at the end of the game, all the restaurants were closed. So we get back to the hotel, want to get some food. Only thing's open is Whataburger in the whole town because it was late. And one of my greatest moments was there was a line out the door at Whataburger, and I guess a few people recognized, you know, who it was or whatever, and they let me cut and go to the front of the line. I was like, there it is. I've made it. I'm in front of the line at Whataburger. This is big time, you know.
People going crazy, stuff flying everywhere, thousands of balloons. But golly, man, emotional, big time. When you cover high school recruiting, you develop relationships with kids, and you start to cheer for them. Being part of something historic like that, like I said, I still got the credential and it's in a frame because people still talk about that game to this day. I mean, it's the largest comeback in bowl history.
If there was an ideal game for me to go out on with this team and how I can contribute, it went like exactly how I would write it.
Man, I wish I could go back and really see in real time, you know, from my point of view after that play, just in feeling the raw joy and happiness. I think it was a great storybook ending to an era of TCU that was really important.
If I can come back from 31-0 in the Alamo Bowl, like, I can do a lot of things mentally. You feel what I'm saying? Like, the average person would just kind of hang it up. Like, ooh, this is tough, you know. But like I said, it's all mentality.
I didn't know where I was. I didn't know why the I didn't have feet. There was a button that they could shut me up with, you know. I would yell at people, ask them what the happened to my feet. Where am I? Why do I feel like this? Honestly, where are my feet? Like, where are they? I thought I was in a dream. Still think I'm in a dream. But it's reality at this point. There's only one person's number that I knew. It's Virginia's.
I have known Bram just through sports. My dad was his Little League baseball coach with my older brother, Jack. I've known him since I was 5. He was always like a sweetheart. We've just always been close. There's like a different level of closeness. So then we just started dating forever.
She's beautiful, and she has a beautiful soul. Very nurturing, very caring. I think she's the most beautiful soul I've ever met.
It was like the most earth-shattering. I knew something happened. Like I knew something happened, and then when I got the phone call from his brother, I was just earth-shattering. At that point, it was just like, he might die. Here you go. Deal with it. Like, what do you do with that? I basically lost my mind. Like, I wasn't even sad. No one could talk about anything. So, not a lot of communication. While he's just like, you know, in a million tubes.
I was begging nurses for their phones just so I can call her. I didn't know where I was.
I woke up one day and I had like been doing the work and like therapy. And it was a random number. I knew it was him. And I've been waiting. It was like all the lights turned on. Where are you? And he was so calm. And I was trying so hard to be chill. And it was like I could breathe. And I'm hearing him breathe, like without all the chaos of the stories people are saying, or like my family members, his family members. It didn't matter. Nothing mattered. It was just like, oh, he's breathing. And there was no more like anxiety of like, oh, I have to be there, he might die. It was like, no, he's breathing. And I'm gonna be there, whenever that may be, but now we can breathe.
The doctor came and gave me a date, 7/7. He said I could leave then, probably, maybe. I knew that was the date, and I kept looking at my phone, the calendar. All right, 2 more weeks here. Let's get out of here. Let's get out of here. And it helped me work a lot harder than I normally would. I wanted to get the heck out of there. But being released and being alone at home, yeah.
The only thing I can compare it to is mourning the death of a close relative for him. It was hard. Me, Ryan DiNucci, and James Power, we went and saw him in the hospital pretty close after. We were the first people to go see him. His mom called us and was like, y'all need to come down here. Hard seeing him like that, for sure. I worry about him. I love him a lot.
I was shell-shocked, to be honest with you. He wasn't even there with us for I think it was a couple weeks almost. All I did was pray for him, pray, Jesus would find him in his sleep, and I felt like just helpless and just couldn't even really fathom that it happened.
There was a dark point in my life over the summer where I just didn't want to leave the house or get out of bed. And I don't know who did it or what got them there, but my college teammates showed up. They made sure I got up. They showed up at the house at like 10 a.m., made sure I was at workouts at 11, 2 days in a row, took me out to eat, and really got me out of a dark depression.
I mean, what else do you have to do, right? I mean, you got one of your best friends who is struggling with something, and I know that if any of us were in that position, Bram would be doing the same.
How do you fall 75 feet or where it was out of the helicopter and survive? He's like a little brother almost, kind of, because we're similar in a lot of ways, kind of how we live our lives, but just love him to death. When you go through life, having someone like that that's a part of your life makes you feel good about yourself. Just knowing that there's a guy like that out there that at any point in time you can pick up the phone and laugh with.
At first I couldn't believe it. I told Bram, bro, we've all faced adversity. This is just your testimony. I mean, this shit doesn't have to slow your life down. And if anything, it adds to it.
We take our bodies for granted, our health for granted. And so when I heard that news for him, my heart just broke. But I knew God would use it. I knew God would use it to write a different story. Not the story he would write, probably, that Bram would write, but the story God would write. And his story's always right. Ours isn't.
My guy who is out there running around the Alamo Bowl, his life was gonna be a little bit different now. But he didn't need much pressing. And he was sending me videos of, just him taking his first steps and just every rehab thing he had. I told him to send me every single one you got. He was inspiring me more than I felt like I was really inspiring him. God's kept him around for a reason, and I am so thankful that Bram's here.
They're probably the best friends I'll ever have. I was supposed to live with a bunch of frat guys. Ended up getting a spot in one of the football houses. That saved my entire life.
Bro, Bram was life of the party.
I was a shit in college. I used to go out a lot, and then if I had people egging me on, I'm very grateful that I was in that football house. It was a lot of good people. Joey Hunt, Ryan DiNucci, James Power, Ty Slanina, Jeff Hooker. I owe everything in this world to all my TCU buddies.
His teammates coming in, it was magical to see that. I wouldn't do anything else but take care of him. The real work didn't happen until almost a year in.
I got very used to being in a wheelchair. I loved it, honestly, at the time. She really just kept me going, kept me motivated. I mean, I don't know if a lot of people would understand, but when you lose your feet, you don't really have much confidence. A lot of my insecurity for a long time was, how are people gonna respond to me walking into a gym or a restaurant with no feet? Am I gonna get stared at? And she gave me that confidence to keep going. She gave me a lot of motivation to get better and get to the point where if we started a family one day, I can take the kids, I can hold them, I can have fun and not let this hold me back. So I had a great prosthesis, John Holmes. He made me some great legs and motivated me to show up, learn how to walk. When I was getting fitted for prosthetics, I ran into a guy and he was like, the best thing I can ever tell you to do is just walk like you used to walk. Like, don't even think about it, just walk like any normal human. And that's what I've been doing. I trip and stumble, but I guess it's like muscle memory. It's never comfortable. But grew up playing football. I don't think everything's perfect.
We had some conversations about, hey, small victories. Be able to do one thing this week you couldn't do a week ago, even if it's just something minute. And he attacked it. I mean, he attacked it hard and had a great attitude towards it. And look, this is the hand I've been dealt. I'm going to battle this thing. I'm going to win. And if you look at him today, you can see it paid off and he won.
I couldn't have done it the way he's doing it. Can't do it the way he's doing it. He's worked really hard to get back, that mobility and get back that strength, and he's killing it. I mean, he's training every day, playing golf. He went and played golf with Coach P, and he was like, Coach P's really good at golf,
In Bram's case, all of us just needed to make sure that he knew there were people behind the scenes that were there to make sure he knew that, people cared. He's a guy that doesn't believe he's ever going to fail. He understands how to pull himself through things, and that's the way he was quarterback. I still remember the Oklahoma State game, and I found out after the ball game that his dad had passed away. There's just a lot of people have been there when he hasn't had good days that help him. When he started rehab, he sent me a video every week of his progress, and so I'd always made sure I hit him back and watched how he did it. And he was doing fabulous, so it was fun to watch.
Chips helped a lot. It's my dude. He keeps me going. I was told by a Paralympic gold medalist snowboarder that he was impressed with what I was doing, and he didn't get out of bed for 3 years. Chip will get you out of bed.
Well, Chip, how's this journey been for you?
Kohlhausen's first return to TCU would be a special one. He was to do the coin toss before TCU's 2023 season opener against Colorado.
It was very emotional.
I'm pushing Bram in the wheelchair. It's so freaking hot. It's so emotional. Just letting go of the wheelchair was weird for me. It was weird. It was like taking your kid to preschool or something. Like, it was like a sad but like beautiful moment. But he was so stoic and like he was safe.
Talking to the umpires and the refs, that was really awesome. Just because I've seen them all before. They're a Big 12 crew, and it was really motivating to hear them come and tell me that they remember me. I'm looking great. I'm gonna be all right. They're so happy that I'm still alive. My family was on the field. All of my buddies came down there. Yeah, it's I'm always really grateful being back in Fort Worth.
So Mark Cohen, he has 2 disabled kids. I was in like the beginning stages of like caretaking, and he, without doing anything, just like saw me, because I'm like putting on like a big front, like Bram's great, Bram's here, like, and he was like, I see you. You're doing like the work. Taking care of other people is a shitload, and seeing other people that do that, doctors, wives, husbands, mothers, fathers, the work about taking care of others selflessly. Like, I look at moms differently. My own mom, like, you have 4 kids. How did you freaking do that? Like, people around you are superheroes. And just those who do that humbly, it's like, you're a freaking rock star. I would do that 100 times over for Bram, for anyone that I cared about, but like, when you are seen by someone who's like older and wiser, and they're like, I'm here for you. It's like, I want to do that forever.
Definitely become more grateful for life and definitely increased my faith. It's changed my opinion and outlook on absolutely everything. Definitely starting to understand a lot more about how people really feel on a day-to-day basis. My heart's gotten a lot bigger.
Just be kind, because you never know what someone's going through. Trust in God, because He's freaking real. He's so real. And just be open to the miracle of life.
Yeah, so I was probably a freshman in high school. I remember the Alamo Bowl just, you thought the game was over. Halftime it's, 31-0. And then something turned at halftime. Guys came out playing hard. It was just one of those games where that's a core memory of college football. The really cool thing about watching Bram in that game is played without fear. As a player, I always wanted to be like that. As a quarterback, you're seen as this guy that isn't supposed to be that tough player, and Bram was that guy. For the 2015 team, I mean, they could have quit. They could have been like, yeah, it's not our day, and just called it. And with the 22 team, there was a lot of times where you might be down and just kept fighting, just being like, hey, who cares? Let's just keep going. We're gonna keep, playing hard. We're gonna see what happens. I think you saw that. And I think that was the whole thing of the TCU culture of, it might not be going well, but always just stay in that fight. Always keep getting up. Keep throwing that punch, stay in there until it's over.
I think the team is gonna always be remembered as almost a blueprint for TCU.
Resiliency.
Resilient.
Resilient, to be honest, and guys stepping up for one another.
We fought hard all the way to the end.
A bunch of dogs,
I firmly believe that team propelled the entire program to what it is now.
I think it just represents everything that TCU is about. I feel like anybody that's recruited to TCU, they need to go watch that game. If you want to be a part of TCU, you got to be this type of player that's going to fight and grind every single day, never give up, and just, when something happens, rally around your teammates, rally around your brothers.
It just lets you know that giving up that's never an option.
If you're facing a challenge, I think the support system is the most important thing. You have to play life to win. This is a tough game. Being in life is hard for everybody. I think you just have to understand that your support is really all that the other person needs.
We always go to prayer. We always lean on family. My son had a, terrible accident this year, and we had so many people that we were able to lean on. And I think that's what's special about, football teams, because you build such a camaraderie and you have those people to lean on, and you surround yourself with people that no matter what, no matter the struggles, they're always going to be there for you.
I think of John 13:7, Jesus says, man, you don't know what I'm doing right now, but someday you will. Yeah, man, you face a challenge, you got two options. You either run to God or you run from Him. You don't stay the same. It wasn't until I was 24 when I got diagnosed with cancer when I chose to follow Jesus. Believing in Jesus cost me nothing. Following Him has cost me everything.
TCU were the small private Christian school that rose to a national championship in recent years and fought against all odds. And the Alamo Bowl exemplified that. And in Texas history, the Battle of the Alamo exemplifies that for us as Texans.
Our mascot is an underdog. I hope we can always maintain that underdog mentality. Going back to Addison and Randolph Clark, you had this ethos, this identity, this school on the plains of Texas that wasn't supposed to make it. And here we are today, more than 150 years later. I hope that we never forget that identity, because I don't want to be just another school that has excellent programs and all the other stuff. I want us to be, who we've always been, whether it's athletically, academically, or beyond. And I think that's part of what makes TCU special, what makes Fort Worth special, and hopefully Texas special as well, is that we've got a lot of folks that identify as Horned Frogs and that identify with that mentality, that status, never willing to back down from a fight. And we might not win all of them, but we're going to win a lot of them.
Her line in the dirt meant you have to be older. You're not the right color, you don't have the money. The girl's clothes were ragged, she had pockets of conviction. She waltzed to the line and then she crossed over. The line in the dirt meant we're in this together. It doesn't matter that we're not the same. If you will stay and defend this land with me, take a leap of faith and then cross over. Cross over. The fears in our lives, they trap us inside of ourselves. Cross over. Each line with hope. Cross over each hurdle you face. When you have faith in the choices you make, cross over. Lines in her hand said, you will love many. Children will bless you. Life will be good. The lines around her blue eyes went dancing with laughter. Deep in the heart, she had learned to cross over. Lines from the doctor were delivered in kindness as the boy and his mother awaited their news. You may not walk or dance again, my son. He said, I don't think so. Then the trio crossed over. Show them a boy when told that he'll never, the courage to say that he can. Crossing the lines and the tests one by one. Maybe that's just how the West was won. Deep in the heart of every Texan is the courage to stand up when facing our test. Shoulder to shoulder, we grow from each other, and with a new two-step, we learn